What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Wolverine Live Recruiting Show. I am your host, EJ Holland, flying solo today. Yesterday was our show with Zach Libby. So if you missed that, go ahead and watch the replay on our YouTube channel and never miss a video by subscribing to our YouTube channel, liking this video. And also, we have a special promo code just for our YouTube subscribers. That is, use the promo code UM1 for $1 for 2 months over at thewolverine.com. So if you like what you see on the YouTube channel, you can get even more recruiting information, literally up to the minute updates all over at thewolverine.com. So for everything coming out of official visit season and everything recruiting in general, go ahead and head over to thewolverine.com and use that special promo code. Again, that's UM1. And before we start tonight's show, we have a message from our sponsor, and that's actually ourselves. As you guys know, the Wolverine has a magazine, the Wolverine magazine, and we are releasing a football preview, which features junior defensive back Will Johnson on the cover and delivers everything you need to know about Michigan football for the 2024 season. And you can find your preview over at the WolverineOnDemand.com. This 160-page magazine has a season preview breaking down the Wolverines' best players and position group, the freshmen most likely to play, and more. A detailed position-by-position look at the Wolverines with player bios, player and coach features, historical articles, and updates on Wolverines in the NFL. A final evaluation of the departing recruiting class, a roundtable with national college football experts giving their thoughts on UM, a notes section, a Big Ten preview, expert columns, opponent previews, and much more. You can find it all in the football preview of the Wolverine magazine. Order yours today at thewolverineondemand.com. Save $5 with free shipping on pre-orders before June 17th. That means you got 5 days left before that deal goes away. So head over to thewolverineondemand.com. All right. Just so you guys know, I am still under the weather, so a little struggling to get going here, but I'll give it my best shot. And we'll start off with John A. Schultz. And he says, EJ, will Kainoa Winston make other visits? If he does, do you still like Michigan's chances? Yeah, so I put in a prediction for Michigan to land top 100 safety Kainoa Winston yesterday. And really, this recruitment has come down to Michigan and Penn State. Now, he's still scheduled to make official visits to North Carolina and Oregon, but I don't think either of those visits will happen. I think you could see Winston potentially shut things down at any point this month and even some point this week. I feel like he really knows that it's down to Michigan and Penn State. Kainoa is not really a guy that's all about, recruiting or the social media buzz or anything. I think he'd rather get it over with sooner, rather than later. So, yeah, I could see Michigan closing soon. So, if he does make those other visits, I don't think it really matters, but I don't see him doing that. I think he really knows it's down to Michigan and Penn State. And, I feel confident about my pick in the Wolverines. John A. Schultz back with another one. He says, EJ, if Caden Strahorn wants to commit on his visit before S.J. Alafatuli makes a decision, is he a take? Both appear to be pretty obvious center-only prospects. Yeah, so Caden Strahorn out of IMG Academy has long been a top target at the center position. He is set to officially visit Michigan later this month. S.J. Alafatuli just made his official visit here this past weekend. I think Michigan is in that top group for S.J. for sure. If Caden, makes his OV for Victor's weekend and wants to commit on the spot, yeah, I do think they would take him. The relationships there are very strong, and he loves what the program has to offer on and off the field. He's Donovan Edwards' cousin. There's just a lot going for Michigan there, despite the fact that he is a Michigan State legacy. So you see Michigan State has the heavy lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine, but yeah, I don't think the Spartans have really been in this race very much. Again, he is a Michigan State legacy. His father's still an analyst for Michigan State and all that good stuff, but there just hasn't been much there. So, if he does want to commit to Michigan, then yeah, I could see I could see Michigan taking him and, probably just passing on SJ. I'm not sure if they would make room for him or not. Originally they only wanted to take 3 offensive linemen. I could see them bumping it up to 4 maybe, but if everything falls the right way for Michigan, they might have to turn away a guy or two. Let's go down to John A. Schultz again. Oh, it looks like he had repeat questions. So he did have one last question. He says, EJ, Breaking Bad or Mad Men, Sopranos or Deadwood? I'm going to be honest with you. I've never seen any of these shows. I don't like any crime/drug shows. So I've never watched Narcos. I don't really care about crime or mysteries. Like, that's what my wife likes. I don't care for that genre at all. So, if it's not like sci-fi or horror, see, I'm rocking an alien shirt here. Then I don't care about it, to be honest. Like, some of my favorite shows, like, obviously I like, popular shows like Game of Thrones or House of Dragon or whatever. Some of my favorite shows are From, Lost, like things like that are what I find entertaining. So yeah, never seen any of those shows. Tyson Smith says, will we get the kid in the thumbnail? So the kid in the thumbnail is on 300 running back Donovan Johnson, who is scheduled to make an unofficial visit to Michigan next week. Now, Donovan Johnson is a very interesting prospect in the sense that there's almost no social media buzz around him, and that's largely because he hasn't posted at all, basically, and he's been injured. So he's recovering from a leg injury, and he was once considered one of the premier running backs in the country. He's still ranked pretty high. He's still a top 300 kid. But I think a lot of people expected him to be a top 100 player before the injury. And so you've had some schools that were really high on him, like Georgia and Ohio State and Florida State, slow down a little bit. And that's opened the door for Michigan to really make a power move. They're prioritizing him despite the injury. Tony Alford offered him as soon as he arrived at Michigan. A lot of schools want to see how Donovan recovers from his injury and how he plays as a senior at IMG. But I think Michigan's, all aboard the Donovan Johnson train. They absolutely love him. They believe in him. They believe he'll bounce back. And that relationship with Tony Alford, extends all the way from Alford's time at Ohio State, where Alford recruited him and was on him early. So I think Michigan has a chance to really make a serious move with Donovan Johnson on his visit. I think his recruitment is still a little bit of a mystery because we are completely unsure of which other schools are going to push and how much schools are going to wait to see how he does as a senior. But very, very intriguing prospect. If he does bounce back from the injury well, could very well be a steal for Michigan. But I had a chance to go out and meet Donovan when I stopped at IMG Academy in the spring, and he's a great kid, very well-spoken, seems genuinely interested, gave a lot of positive quotes about Tony Alford. So I definitely could see him as a potential Michigan fit. Tyson Smith says, you like to make fun of others about donuts, but what is your favorite donut? My favorite donut is a Boston cream. I'm a chocolate fiend, and Boston cream's the best because you get a chocolate donut and it's puffy. So that's already solid. And then the Boston cream is obviously A1. I can definitely do the regular cream filling. But yeah, Boston cream is what I'll go for all day. Any chocolate type of donut I'll take, except for like the all chocolate donut. For some reason, that doesn't come out too well Like you have to, I don't know. For some reason, it just like kind of crumbles. It doesn't taste as good. But yeah, I'll go with Boston cream. It's the best of all the donuts. Tyson Smith says, will any of the official visitors commit? There's certainly some candidates this weekend. When you look at, the running back position, you have Jasper Parker coming in, 3-star out of Louisiana. I think he's a potential commit candidate. Michigan is still trying its best with Jordan Davidson. They really like Shakai Mills-Knight. They really like Donovan Johnson. But, Jasper Parker's been high on the board for a long time. When you look at other competition, you have North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Oklahoma State, Duke as some of the other true competitors in this recruitment. So not exactly super stiff competition. So I could easily see him ending up at Michigan. Ron Bellamy has done a fantastic job of recruiting Parker. They actually, Bellamy attended Archbishop Shaw, which is where Parker goes. And Parker's head coach is actually the same guy who coached Ron Bellamy. So, that connection goes a long way, and he's built up a quick relationship here with Tony Alford as well. So, Jasper Parker, depending on how the running back dominoes fall, I guess, or, even if he does try to make a commitment this weekend, I could definitely see Michigan taking him as well. I also think he's a really good fit. Culture-wise, really good kid, super, well-spoken, and he absolutely loved his visit in the spring. So, Jasper's one. And then, looking at the receivers, Sean Terry and Philip Wright, both of them are definitely candidates to maybe not pull the trigger immediately, but perhaps in the near future. Sean Terry recently backed out of his commitment to Notre Dame, and it seems like Michigan's in that top 3 now with Kentucky and Missouri. He already visited Kentucky right after decommitting from Notre Dame. He was just at Missouri this past weekend. Now he gets to see Michigan. Look, the Wolverines absolutely love his ability as a slot. They love his ability as a return man, and that's something they really value. So right now, Michigan has the lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine with a strong visit. You could see Michigan definitely take full command there. And then Philip Wright, his recruitment got really interesting this week. And for those of you that don't know, we're talking about 3-star Louisiana receiver Philip Wright. His recruitment got really interesting because, he's obviously set to visit Michigan this weekend, but he was set to visit Georgia next weekend. And Georgia just picked up a commitment from Talon Taylor. They already have another wide receiver commitment. They're in the running for a few others like CJ Wiley. So they're filling up their receiver room quickly. So I exchanged messages with our Georgia insider, Jeremy Johnson, who told me that Georgia may not bring him in for an official visit next weekend. So that leaves the 3 schools in the running here as Michigan, Baylor, and Georgia Tech. Not exactly scary competition. Now, Baylor and Georgia Tech offer an opportunity for him to stay in a warmer climate in the South, but Michigan is obviously the superior program. He's been to Michigan in the past. He was just on campus for the spring game, and he has a really close relationship with Bellamy, who is obviously a Louisiana native. So I think Michigan has a prime opportunity to really make a serious move with Wright this weekend. Tyson Smith back with one last question. He says, will we flip Shamari Earls? So South Carolina commit Shamari Earls is set to make his first visit to Michigan this week. It'll be an unofficial visit. He will arrive on campus tomorrow, and he's staying until June 16th. So it is a pretty long multi-day visit. This will give Earls his first in-depth look at the program and allow him to spend some more time with the coaching staff, meet new head coach Sherrone more, get a better feel for secondary coach Lamar Morgan, who visited with him and his father during the spring evaluation period, go over the scheme with defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. But I texted with Earls earlier in the week. He's very excited about getting to Ann Arbor. He told me he wants to get back for an official visit in the fall if everything goes well on this trip, which I think it will. Lamar Morgan's done a fantastic job of prioritizing him and building that relationship in a hurry. Earls has been a top priority ever since Morgan arrived in Ann Arbor, and Morgan never stopped recruiting him even after he did commit to South Carolina, which is obviously evidenced by Earls scheduling this visit. So, yeah, I think Michigan has a legitimate shot. I think the two schools to really watch here in this recruitment are Michigan and Georgia, and I think both schools are legitimate flip options. Nate the Great says, hey, EJ, it seems like each site feels differently about Kainoa Winston. Where would you personally rank him? Dude is a missile. When tackling, to me, plays like a top 100 recruit. Yeah, so On3 has him graded just outside the top 100. 24/7 and ESPN have him as a top 50 player, and Rivals has him as a 3-star. That Rivals ranking is so bad, man. Get out of here. I think that I would have Winston probably right where On3 has him, in between the top 100 and top 150. Excuse me. Again, still under the weather. I think that it's hard for me to rank a shorter DB that high. 5'10" and a half is what Winston is listed at, and I would say that's kind of generous. I would say he's close to 5'10". But I think he's the exception to the rule in that I normally hate shorter DBs. Like when Michigan had a commitment from Andre Seldon, I did not like him at all, even though he generated all that buzz late during that Under Armour game and people hyped him up as this next great DB. I had him as a 3-star. I didn't like him. But I think Kainoa Winston is that exception. He is the kid that I really, really like. When you turn on his film, you see elite closing speed. You see the physicality. You see the ability to not just be a nickel, but be a deep safety if needed, to come into the box if needed as well. He's just a little bulldozer, like a little pit bull, man. You know, Michigan recruited Jamari Deloach early for the nickel spot, but Deloach was a thinner track kid. I mean, Kainoa is very well built in both his upper and lower halves. When someone asked me for a player comp earlier this week over at thewolverine.com, I gave Bob Sanders. Bob Sanders, for those of you that don't remember, played at Iowa. He was a star with the Indianapolis Colts. I liked Bob Sanders so much as a kid that I had a Bob Sanders jersey. But Bob Sanders was definitely on the shorter side at like 5'8", 5'9". But the closing speed, the physicality, the elite instincts, it was all there. And it's kind of the same with Winston. So, you know, I'm really fond of him. You know, even though I'm not putting him in the top 100 per se, I think he is, you know, a really high level recruit and would be a fantastic land for Michigan. Kevin Frazier says, who are the top linebacker targets on Michigan's board that could realistically commit? So the top linebacker targets are, there's only a select group of linebacker targets. You have 3 coming in for Victor's weekend: on 300 linebacker Kamar Archie, 3-star prospect Chase Taylor, and top 100 recruit Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng. The other linebacker target is on 300 Miami commit Elijah Melendez. Again, sorry for the coughing. Trying to power through the illness, but yeah, with Melendez, he was supposed to be on campus over the weekend. He's pushing that visit back to the fall. But like I said, they get 3 linebackers on campus next weekend. Let's go ahead and start off with Kamar Archie. You know, I think this has become a close race between Michigan, Clemson, and Rutgers. You know, Rutgers is pitching him on staying closer to home. I think Clemson really moved the needle on his visit there. But Michigan's a school that he's always liked. He fits the you know, the description of a Michigan kid, just high character kid, high academic kid. Grew up watching Michigan. His father's a big Michigan fan, so I think they can gain momentum back with Archie on his OV. Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng is originally from Virginia, so it's not like he's a true Florida kid. He's very open to playing his ball in the Midwest. 3 of his finalists are Michigan, Notre Dame, and Ohio State. So, you know, that bodes well for Michigan. He visited in the spring, had a great time on campus. He's known new linebackers coach Brian Jean Mary dating back to his time at Tennessee. Now, his brother did play at Notre Dame, and that obviously gives the Irish an in, but he really loves what Michigan has to offer on and off the field, and I think they can make a move on the OV. And lastly, Chase Taylor is not highly ranked. He's a 3-star out of Georgia, but Michigan really values his length, his athleticism, his versatility. He's a guy that they've been high on for a long time. And, Michigan, I think, has a chance to really make a move there. It wouldn't be surprising to see Chase Taylor in the class. Michigan has the lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. But as you see there, he's about 6'3", 200 pounds. So a really intriguing athlete. John A. Schultz says, EJ, tell us your funniest story from the recruiting trail. If you can't think of one, give us your best joke. Funniest story from the recruiting trail. I think the most I've laughed on the recruiting trail is watching Jalen Waddle make a bunch of jokes. One of my videos of Jalen trash talking and calling some kid a beanhead went viral. So you can look up Jalen Waddle beanhead and you'll see my video. It was featured like on a bunch of sports networks and stuff. I had a lot of fun times playing some ping pong with Dante Moore. Outside of that, yeah, not a lot of funny stories. I mean, an awkward funny story is I bumped into former Michigan offensive coordinator Josh Gaddis on the recruiting trail last month. That was funny. And we all know why that was funny. But yeah, no, I can't think of like crazy funny stories or anything. So give us your best joke. Notre Dame, that's the joke because they suck. Stephen Lindsay says, I've heard none to very little buzz about linebackers on the trail. What's up with that? Is Jean Mary on vacation? No, like I just mentioned, Michigan's focused on a really small group of targets they've really been high on. So, I don't think they'll take more than 2 linebackers unless, they're able to land all of their top targets or something. They'll make room for guys, but I think it's just a smaller linebacker class, and Jean Mary's identified as guys. Juju says, how are you feeling about Taz Williams? I feel like we have to knock it out of the park. A&M lean, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Texas A&M did a really nice job on his official visit there this past weekend. It's unclear. I haven't gotten a direct answer on where exactly he sits on their board, but if they are pushing for him, I think they'll be tough to beat. I haven't put in a prediction anywhere. I know Michigan is the leader on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. They get him back for Victor's weekend on June 21st. And, Michigan still has a good shot there. With the connection to Ron Bellamy. Bellamy is very close to Williams's wide receiver trainer, Margin Hooks. They played together in the NFL. So that certainly helps. But yeah, I would give Texas A&M the advantage right now. It's just kind of hard to get clarity on their board. But Michigan is still right in the mix of things. George Warner says, any word on Boateng? We just talked about him. He's coming in for Victor's weekend. We'll know more about Boateng after that. Like I said, his brother played at Notre Dame. They impressed him on the visit. Ohio State's very high up there. USC impressed him on the OV. So still a pretty open race here. KS says, thoughts on the Aaron Dunston hire to replace Christina DeRuyter? Yeah, before Christina left to the NFL, she had moved into operations and wasn't doing the on-campus recruiting stuff. And that's the role Aaron Dunston's going to fill. Will Johnson's sister, Kaylee, is the new director of on-campus recruiting. So Aaron Dunston's expected to do more operations. So I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. It's not a recruiting hire, but it does look like Ohio State is going to miss her. Butter XO says, what happened with the Jordan Davidson drama? I don't know. Like, people are just weird. You had the fake Ohio State Rivals reporter messaging him and telling him I was making things up. And so that was weird. And then you had people telling Zach Libby that he made up his quote with Davidson's mentor, which was completely untrue. That quote was directly from the mentor. So I don't know. Look, Ohio State's still considered the heavy favorite here. He visits Oregon this weekend. Michigan's still pushing, but I think it's going to be a tough battle. Henry Kardorsky says, EJ, how are UM's chances with Andrew Marsh? He's going to be a tough pool from Texas, especially when you have schools like Texas and Oklahoma involved. He had a strong visit to USC, but he's been to Michigan on multiple occasions. His mother works in education, so she really values Michigan's academics. Ron Bellamy's been in this recruitment from the very beginning, so I think that Michigan is certainly in that top group. They'll get him back for an official visit in the fall, but I just think the Southern schools are going to be tough to beat. Let's go down to Ken Mine. He says, do you think us getting the last visit for Andrew Olash will help us with our momentum? Yeah, I think Michigan might actually lead in that recruitment right now. Penn State's going to throw everything at him. But, if you're a tight end and you look at Michigan and what they've done with guys recently, and you point to a guy like Colston Loveland that kind of resembles Olash, and I think that that's a big selling point. So, yeah, I think Michigan has a legitimate shot. I think getting the last visit is definitely big in this recruitment. How are we feeling about Hardy Watts and Douglas Utu? Hardy Watts, I got a prediction from Clemson from another site, but I still think Michigan's in good shape there. Clemson definitely made a move, and I'm not, I'm not shying away from that or saying they didn't. They definitely did. They are Michigan's biggest threat. But Michigan gets him in for Victor's weekend. I think they can regain the momentum with him. And with Douglas Utu, Michigan had a strong OV, but, I think he's taking other visits, and we'll see how things kind of shake out with him. Alabama, Washington, Nebraska are all high on him as well. I think Michigan's right there with him, but still no real good feel one way or the other. Borge Warner says, does it look good with Marco Jones? I think Michigan really impressed him and his family on the official visit. I think that he fits everything that Michigan wants in a kid from a character standpoint. He values Michigan from an education standpoint and a football standpoint as well. Texas A&M, USC, Texas are all schools to really watch here. They're going to be tough to beat. But I think Michigan gave itself as good of a shot as you're going to get with Marco Jones. He's deciding in July, so still some time for him to take visits and kind of sift through things. Jacob Helderman says, how soon do you expect Maxwell Roy and Kainoa Winston to make their decisions? I would say I would expect both to decide at some point this month. KS says, is Michael Carroll still taking his OV to Michigan? We'll see. I'll follow up with his dad next week, but I think even if he does, he'd be very tough to flip from Alabama. Why doesn't Michigan target OTs? It seems like Rutgers and NC State land top 200 offensive tackles. The very high-end premier offensive tackles like David Sanders, they're going to get NIL. It's a weaker year for offensive tackles in general, so I think it's just been tough for Michigan to find that footing with offensive tackles this cycle. Even like Rutgers landed Jalen Matthews, and I think they did some extracurriculars there just to get him. So, I think Michigan's biggest miss of the cycle was losing Will Black to Notre Dame, and they haven't really been able to pivot from that. Do you like street food? If so, which city has the best street food? I don't know what you necessarily classify as street food, but I grew up on a border town close to Matamoros, Mexico, and there's a border town there called Progreso, and that probably has the best Mexican street food. Borja Warner says, are we going to get any top offensive tackles? I think right now it's mostly guys that'll flex out, like Hardy Watts would have a chance to flex out. But other than that, yeah, it's tough sledding. Obviously Andrew Babalola is on campus this weekend, but Stanford's a heavy favorite there. But it looks like mostly interior guys with the hope that somebody can kick out. Henry Kodorsky says, EJ, isn't UM's linebacker situation a bit concerning? Lost Smith and Beasley last cycle and not leading for any of the linebackers they're targeting, although they're in the mix. Yeah, I mean, I think linebacker is a position that Michigan's been able to be successful in the transfer portal, so they can obviously fill the gap there. 26 appears to be a strong year for linebackers. And, you know, I still think they're high for all four of those guys, for Boateng, Archie, Taylor, and, you know, they're still trying their best to flip Melendez. So we'll just see how it shakes out. Go Blue 81 says, how are we looking with Andrew Olash, and is he making it official? Yes, I mentioned he's making it for Victor's weekend, and I would give Michigan the slight edge over Penn State. So we'll see how it goes. We have passed the 30-minute mark, so let's try to do speed rush, and plus I'm dying and need a cough drop. EJ, is Michigan involved with Draymond Owens? I've never heard of him before today when he released the top 9. Sherrone Moore personally offered him in the winter. I hadn't heard his name really much since then, but I plan to do some digging today, but kind of got backtracked with things, but I'll definitely ask about him here soon. How's recruiting looking for 26? Looks like Hart might go to Clemson. Are we still in the mix? If not, do you like Troy Hunt or Brady Smeagol? Yeah, I think the prediction for Brady Hart to Clemson was a bit premature. Michigan still feels optimistic. He's set to be on campus this weekend. Troy Hunt's been on campus in the past. He's set to come back this month as well. He got a Texas crystal ball, but I think that the door's still open there because they're in the mix with a couple other signal callers. And then Michigan is high on the list for Brady Smeagol, who will also be on campus. And I think any of those 3 guys would be super quality lands. Henry Kardarski says, who is UM targeting at corner besides flip targets, Alex Graham and Shamari Earls? I know Michigan offered a lot of guys. Lamar Morgan hasn't had an easy job, but it seems like Michigan isn't making too much progress. I think there's just a lot of new targets, so it's all about getting them to campus. You know, Caleb Singleton, we reported earlier today, is set to make an official visit on June 21st. You know, and like I said, it's just a bunch of new targets. So it's just really who he's able to get to campus. So I think we'll have more clarity on that question in the next couple of weeks. Go Blue 81 says, do you think that Andrew Babalola really goes to Stanford? If not, with NIL playing a huge part, how are our chances? I think, you know, Michigan offers an elite education and obviously better football than Stanford. So the door would still be open for him, for Michigan to make a move this weekend, but I just think he really loves Stanford. So I would still give them the advantage. How worried should we be about Nate Marshall flipping to Auburn? I mean, I would be moderately concerned, and I think you have to keep an eye on Marshall all the way until he signs. Like I said, we're doing rapid answers now. Kevin Hall said, does the recent crystal ball for Hardy Watts mean Michigan is completely out of the race? Absolutely not. He's still scheduled to come in on June 21st. So I think that crystal ball is premature. How are we feeling about Maxwell Roy? Very good. Leading up into his June 21st visit, I think Michigan can close on that OV. I think Ivan Taylor flips to Michigan since Notre Dame had a couple of safety commits? Yeah, I mean, if they get Jadon Blair, the door's open, but Alabama is also a big threat to flip him. Jordan Young, any serious movement or wait till official visits? Yeah, he's on campus for his OV next weekend. He's not deciding till October, so it'll probably be the long game with him. Why does it seem so bad news bears with Michigan recruiting at this point? They're getting worked by other perennial top 10 programs. Is it the turnover on staff? Yeah, some of it's the turnover on staff. You know, these coaches are having to play from behind. You know, guys like Lamar Morgan, you know, coming from the G5 level, wasn't familiar with a lot of Michigan targets, so he's had to reset the board and just playing from behind in general. But I think it really comes down to NIL. Stephen Lindsay says, what are the chances we flip Graham? So Alex Graham, who's committed to Colorado, originally an in-state kid, I think is, you know, he's still on the board, but you know, he's struggled to stay healthy, and I think Michigan would like to see how he does as a senior, to be completely honest. And last question comes from Jason Wilbur. And he says, with all of the O-line recruiting, what's the word with Strahorn? He's a true center. I think they would take him or S.J. Alafatuli as a center. So you're probably looking at 3 or 4 offensive linemen. But yeah, I think Michigan's in a good spot with Caden despite his Michigan State ties. All right, guys, that is my time, and I am going to go take a nap or something. I am still recovering, so hopefully next week I will be fully healthy. Appreciate you guys for joining me. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for free. Subscribe to thewolverine.com using promo code UM1. That gets you $1 for 2 months and get more Michigan recruiting information over there. All your latest intel coming out of official visits. Like I said, we will see you all next week.